What's up, sports fans, and thanks for watching this special edition of Talk Culotta, where we talk a lot of sports. Let's start off by acknowledging what an incredible week this is. Yesterday was 504 Day, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And everywhere around the world, it's Cinco de Mayo, specifically in San Antonio, where Jim Love joins us. And finally, as we look to the weekend ahead, we also want to talk about the fact that today is the first day of the second weekend of Jazz Fest in New Orleans. Jimmy Buffett will be playing on Sunday, which, of course, is Mother's Day. And all that falls in between Saturday, Derby Day, and particularly the fastest 2 minutes in sports. The Kentucky Derby has turned the fastest 2 minutes in sports into a year-round party with strategic implications for sponsors and sports marketers everywhere. I'm Jack Culotta. This is Talk Culotta, and I'm joined by Seth Schmeeckle from Baton Rouge and Jim Love from San Antonio. We're going to get this debate started in 3, 2, 1. Let's talk a lot of sports.
At Bear Law LLC, we have the privilege of representing victims and survivors that are oftentimes involved in catastrophic incidents that affect their lives.
If anyone looking for a personal and loving relationship with law, I would choose Bear Law.
At Bear Law, our goal is to turn victims into victors.
This is Talk Culotta, presented by Boot Crew Media. Talk Culotta, presented by DraftKings and Helm Paint. If you're betting on DraftKings or just joining the app, download DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code BOOT, that's BOOT. Deposit $5 and get $100 in free play. Seth, Jim, are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me too, Jack. And also like to give a big shout out to my wife, as in addition to Cinco de Mayo, it's also my 21st wedding anniversary. So I'll be departing this to go take her to a lovely dinner. So thanks for having me on prior to that.
Congratulations. We're going to start with an introduction, and then I'm going to lay out the format for this Kentucky Derby debate. First, an intro with Jim starting, since you'll be taking the lead for the analysis for the odd-numbered horses. 30 seconds to you, Jimbo.
Oh, I didn't know we had a time limit. As you know from previous shows I've been on, I can be a little long-winded, but just I love playing the ponies. We have Retama Park here in San Antonio, which is not much to speak of. It's certainly no fairgrounds, smaller track, don't have any real big name races like you all do in New Orleans. But I grew up in Maryland, going to Laurel Park with my granddad, my uncles, my mom as a little kid. And I certainly love spending time up at Saratoga race course in upstate New York. So the horses are a big part of my upbringing, going to the track as a little kid. And I still think it's the greatest sport on earth in many ways, the sport of kings, if you will. So thanks again for having me.
Cheers to you, Mr. Schmeeckle.
Oh, thanks again, Jack. I got into horses circa 2006. A partner here at my law firm brought me in to his office, thought he was giving me a big project. Instead, he was going to teach me about the ponies. And really what I learned is it's just a great pastime to spend with friends, throw a party, have a few cocktails, and it's really just an all-around great time.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get started here with the format being I'm going to show all the horses on the screen, and then we're going to go one by one, obviously 1 through 20 with the horses, the odd-numbered horses. Jim's going to provide his analysis with obviously a little extra time for those he feels strongly about. And then Seth will lead the discussion for the even-numbered horses. And then we'll close out with our picks and any final conversation. So without further ado, let's check out these horses. All right, Jimbo.
Well, that was fun.
That was cool.
A little sarcasm early by Mr. Schmeeckle.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's what everybody in the car was hoping to listen to.
I felt like I was in the grocery store with that jazzy music. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey, I just selected some instrumental real quick and then let it ride. So don't be an asshole, Seth. All right, we're gonna give the floor to Mr. Love with the one horse, Mo Donegal.
Well, Mo Donegal is certainly an interesting horse. Last 2 times this horse has broken from post position 1. It has won its races at Aqueduct Park in New York. Won the Wood Memorial breaking from the rail, and the Renton last fall breaking from the rail. Typically, the number 1 post position is kind of regarded as a kiss of death in the Kentucky Derby. The way the gate is configured to get all 20 horses onto the track, when you break from post 1, you actually have to bow outward a little bit because you're kind of at the top of the stretch where you break from. So that's always kind of seen as a challenge for horses. You know, this horse won the Wood Memorial last time out with a really nice ground saving trip on the rail, late kick to get up by a neck over a horse early voting, who's actually skipping this race and kind of targeting the Preakness. And you know, the problem with the Wood Memorial is the last Derby winner to win the Wood was Fusaichi Pegasus in 2000. You know, so not really a lot of horses coming out of the preps in New York and then winning the Derby. Of course, we do have Todd Pletcher as the trainer. It's one of 3 of his horses. And Arado Ortiz is the jockey. You know, those are Arado Ortiz always runs really well up in New York, and Pletcher's won this race a few times, but has had many attempts and often enters 3 or 4 horses. You know, ultimately this horse is going to sit back, save ground, and try to make one late run on the rail. You know, and Ortiz should get him a good ground saving trip, and just depends on if he can kind of stay out of trouble and pick off some horses coming down the stretch.
Seth, rebuttal.
I think he described it perfectly well. He's highly regarded by many. I don't think I'm going to be using him. I don't like his closing style. I think he had an absolute perfect trip in that Wood Memorial, which is why his speed rating is higher than I think it otherwise would be. Just feels right for a little bit of a rebound. Just kind of feels very much like dialed in from several years back that he's just not going to get there in this race.
Okay, moving on. And just so everybody knows, Seth Schmeeckle is a horse racing expert. Jim Love is a horse racing expert. Jim Love is also one of my best friends, and Seth Schmeeckle is also my first cousin and the eldest of the Culotta family lineage in our generation. So with that being said, I will not be afraid to, despite the fact that I know very little about the Kentucky Derby and these horses, I will not be afraid to cut these men off should they talk too long or say something ridiculous. I'm also going to keep tabs of time. In the interest of time, we do want to keep this show under an hour. And with that being said, moving on to my favorite name, of course, Happy Jack, 30-1. Take it away, Seth.
Yeah, I mean, it's your namesake. I want to love him, really do. You got Doug O'Neill training one. Doug O'Neill trained Derby winner. I'll have another. This is not. I'll have another. He finished a distant 3rd in that Santa Anita. I hope the owners are really going to enjoy their time at the Derby. It's a great experience, especially if you're the owner of a horse. I get it. This just seems like a very easy toss to me. I don't really see anything in Happy Jack.
It sounds like when you say they'll enjoy their time at the Derby, it's like saying that the Detroit Lions will enjoy their time playing in the NFL.
That's an eloquent way of thinking about it, actually. Well said.
Well, are the Lions getting kicked out of the NFL? Because the Derby ends and these people go home. We unfortunately have to suffer through the Lions year after year.
You know, next time you could just say, well said, Jack, and we'll move on to Jimbo.
You know, I like I said, great name. I'm sure for your sake, you know, it is your namesake. So you probably like this horse a little bit on that alone, Jackie. But the horse has lost its last 3 races by a combined 49 lengths. Was a distant third at the Santa Anita, like Seth said. So it's a pretty easy toss for me as well. Doug O'Neill has won the Derby, of course, as a trainer, but just seems like different circumstances. So, horse hasn't won since January. That was a maiden race, and was outrun by Messier by, 27 lengths in February and 10 lengths at the Santa Anita Derby last month. So that's one horse right away that's beaten this horse twice pretty handily. So it's a toss for me.
My last guest on the show yesterday was Jeff Duncan, who is a longtime journalist, award-winning coverage of Katrina and the Saints, and 3 books. And he grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. He said he was going to be tuning into the show, but he also obviously has a story to write about Epicenter and that connection, and that is the 3rd horse, which goes to Jimbo.
Well, Epicenter is the second choice on the morning line at 7-2. I think, some interesting things. This horse ran all of its prep races, did the traditional 3 prep races at the fairgrounds. So obviously there's that local connection for our viewers in New Orleans. The Lecomte Stakes in January, Risen Star, which is getting to be a stronger and stronger race each year, as the second big prep in February. And then, of course, the Louisiana Derby in late March. The last Louisiana Derby winner to win the Kentucky Derby was Grindstone in 1996. But, of course, last year's kind of retroactive Derby winner, Mandalone, did run in the Louisiana Derby, ran 6th. So ultimately there is a little bit of a path through Louisiana to then winning the Derby. Country House also ran in the Louisiana Derby in 19 and then won the race. I do like how he powered through the preps in Louisiana. Definitely have a little concern when he got beat in the stretch in the Lecomte Stakes, ran that 47-second half mile and got caught at the wire by Call Me Midnight. When dialed back to 47 and 4 half mile at Risen Star, was able to just go gate to wire with no issue. And then in the Louisiana Derby, I really like what Joel Rosario did by kind of backing off, was 3rd at the first 2 calls, ran that, trailing a 47 and 1 half mile, and then just blew by everybody in the stretch. I think for this horse to be successful, he needs to not be setting a 46 and change half mile in this Derby. He needs to stalk, and he showed he could do that in Louisiana by running more, a couple lengths off that hot pace. Last thing I'll throw out there, I think we knew we would probably spend a little longer time on this, so don't cut me off. I like that the Louisiana Derby is 9.5 furlongs. It's the longest of all the prep races. He demonstrated that he could go 9.5, no problem. And then Steve Asmussen, 0 for 23 in the Derby, Hall of Fame trainer, loves running his horses at the fairgrounds in the winter. So there's definitely that connection to Louisiana. But then Steve Asmussen also is based in Laredo, Texas, here in South Texas. So we always
had to give a shout out to Seth.
We always pull for him here.
Yeah.
And when I was at Saratoga last summer, ran into him walking out of a restaurant, him and his wife and his 3 sons, and bantered with him, and said, I'm up here visiting from San Antonio. And he said, well, San Antonio, that's where me and my wife went on our first date. So he has some ties to San Antonio, but always loves running and prepping his horses in New Orleans. And, it'd be cool to see him get his first Derby this weekend.
Seth, rebuttal or agree with most of what Jim said?
Just about everything. He showed us he can rate off the lead in the Louisiana Derby. He's really just a fabulous horse. I'm telling you, this is my favorite horse in the group. I'm shocked he's not the morning line favorite. I think he will be the morning line favorite by the time all's said and done. Does that mean he's going to win? It's a 20-horse race. The one thing I think, Jim, we didn't talk about is his gate position 3. Yeah. He's going to have to go out much faster than he probably otherwise would have wanted to, so he doesn't get pinched on that rail and shuffled back. Now, can he do it? He should. He should be able to do it under control. But that's going to be the dicey thing, is he's got to handle that break and get into that early stalking position right away. And if so, I really think this is probably the most likely board hitter. Maybe he doesn't win. Something happens. It's 20 horses. But I think this is the best horse in the race.
The 4 horse, Summer is Tomorrow, 30-1 odds. Seth, take it away.
This is what they're all talking about. Summer is tomorrow, is going to run a 45-second opening half mile. This horse is coming from across the pond. It finished, I believe it was second in the UAE Derby. The UAE has produced a lot of useless runners in the Kentucky Derby. I believe since 2000, they've sent 16 of them our way, and only one has managed to finish fifth.
Yep.
And this isn't even the one that won the UAE Derby. I used to fall in love with the UAE Derby runners. They look so good. You don't get a lot of data. I have no idea what any of this information on the DRF because it doesn't translate to American figures. But the one thing I finally have learned is just throw it out. I'm going to get beat at some point on it, but I've lost enough money over the years by believing this is the year the Japanese horse does it great. And they're saying it, and it's not this one. It's going to be another one coming up. This guy is coming to do one thing. He's going to want to run a 45-second half mile. His owners are going to be cheering while their horse is in front. And then that's going to be the end of it. Now, the real question is what impact does that have on the rest of the Derby? But otherwise, you can toss this horse fairly quickly.
I admire the hate behind that analysis. Go ahead, Jimbo.
I mean, the name is very apropos. Summer is tomorrow because it's going to be 100 degrees here tomorrow for the first time all year in San Ann. My notes are limited to literally one sentence. It's I'm willing to get beat by this one until a Dubai shipper actually proves me wrong. Seth really summed it up well. I think Thunder Snow was a horse I got really sucked into betting on a few years back.
I forget.
I think he may have been the one that ran fifth or seventh, but
I think he was Master. I think it was Master of Hounds that finished fifth.
Oh, but just brutal every time. And I don't understand how to read the info quite as well, but they did say this horse is going to be a rabbit and just try to go. And, he may be leading for the first 6 furlongs, but the last half mile will treat this horse very poorly. And it's an easy toss for me.
All right. Moving on to the 5 horse. Jim, take it away. It's Smile Happy at 20-1 odds.
Yeah, I think Smile Happy's definitely, moderately intriguing. Zandin is the morning line favorite. And I think Seth said it well that maybe Zandin shouldn't be the morning line favorite. It should be Epicenter, but this horse has run competitively with Zandin its last 2 starts. Smile Happy ran second in the Risen Star, which featured the 2 morning line favorites in this race. Epicenter ran first, Zandin ran third, Smile Happy ran second between them. Zandin definitely outkicked this horse in the Bluegrass 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago at Keeneland, but has remained competitive with a morning line favorite. Has yet to win a race at age 3 though, which is a little concerning. Has only run 2 races. The last Bluegrass runner, period, not even winner, but the last horse that ran in the Bluegrass to win the Derby was Street Sense in 2007. That was a great 3-year-old class with Curlin and Hardspun and some other good horses. But the 2 things I do like are this horse has won at Churchill Downs, won the Kentucky Jockey Club last fall, and that race featured Classic Causeway and White Abario, who we'll talk about later. Those 2 horses then came back and won their next starts out of that race. So it was a really good race, and it was at Churchill. And then I also do like that this horse came out of the Risen Star, which also was a race where Epicenter and Zandin then came out and won their next starts. So this horse has run in some really good races and has run second twice and first twice in 4-3 starts. So, I think Kenny Mcpeek is still trying to win a Derby as the trainer. He's won Preakness and a Belmont. Corey Laneri is a good jockey. He's been on this horse the last 3 times and opted to keep the mount. So I think there's some intrigue at 20-1.
Seth, go ahead. I'm just enjoying this mint julep, which is making me smile happy.
Oh, very good, Jack. It's an interesting horse, and I really haven't kind of figured out what I'm doing with it yet. He's not winning the thing. He might be at bottom of the ticket. The things to like are, if you like the DRF, the buyer speed ratings like I do, you see a 90 back at the Kentucky Jockey Club, and then he improves to 294s. Some people will tell you that suggests he's about to make another big step forward. Mm-hmm. That's what you need here to try to get in the game, and he's shown that he can kind of run. Now, this is a horse whose father is Run Happy, though. Run Happy is not really one of your distance runners. And when you watch the Bluegrass and you watch Zandin take him over, like he doesn't look like he wants to finish the Bluegrass to me. And so I think adding another furlong is what's causing me problems, that even if he's about to have a good race, does he still want to run the extra furlong? So I've got a big question mark by him right now. There's a lot of good things to like here, but it's you're going to have to take a stand one way or the other, and I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Moving on, Seth, take it away. The 6-horse Messier, 8-1 odds.
Messier, the first of the Baffert. Oh, excuse me. I mean the Tim Yakteen horses. For those that don't know, of course, Baffert has been suspended and is not going to be participating this year. But lo and behold, he was able to transfer his horse Messier, who he had been training up until recently, to Mr. Tim Yakteen, a protege of his.
What a rat bastard!
The silver-haired devil.
That's right. I really like everything about this horse. I think this is one of the 3 who can possibly win the thing. The Robert Lewis was a very, very strong race for him. Again, he reproduced in the Santa Anita with another fine speed race. He's been trained by Baffert. This is going to be a 6th race. He's improved all the way along, starting in June. He's well seasoned. And I think he's just a strong horse. I think if you want to have a knock on him, his races, though, he's never run against more than 6 horses. So before you go run off and anoint Messier, he's now going to be facing 20 horses. And how does he handle that? But I mean, from what you're seeing, though, and he's trained by Baffert, I think he should handle it. But that's my only knock.
I'm looking at the list of the owners on Messier, and it's like 1 billion people compared to every other horse, which just has 1 owner.
It's more of a conglomerate or a syndicate. Yeah, it seems like it.
Rebuttal or agree, Mr. Love?
Well, I mean, it's almost like Seth's looking at my notes, because the biggest thing that stuck out to me as kind of a con on this horse is that he's never faced more than 6 horses in a race, and Seth nailed that. Steady progression and improvement every race. The Baffert angle. I mean, Baffert's horse crossed the wire first last year and didn't then officially win, but of course the bet's paid if you bet on that horse. Baffert's won the 2 Triple Crowns, has won a ton of derbies. Yes, it's not his horse on paper right now, but that there's that angle. The horses that have come from California have been generally doing very well in this race for the last decade or so. And the Santa Anita preps and ran well at Del Mar last fall. So Johnny V is a great jockey, Johnny Velasquez. So I more or less agree. I mean, the 6 or less horses thing is the big red flag for me as well.
7-horse Crown Pride, 20-1 odds. Go to Mr. Love.
So much like the 4-horse that we already talked about, Summer is Tomorrow, this horse is coming over from Dubai. We've kind of already talked that angle. Those horses have never performed in the Derby. This one, I feel, is getting a little more pre-race buzz, 20-1 morning line instead of 30-1 like Summer is Tomorrow. There's just very little info out there on these international races. The horse only ran 3 times in Japan before going to Dubai, won a couple of stakes races, debuted in a stakes race, instead of a maiden race. But I know in Japan, that's, the way they kind of debut is a little differently. I'm sure this horse is going to get some wagers. There's always an angle that, an international horse is finally going to come win the Derby or something. A Japanese-owned horse, Fusaichi Pegasus, did win the Derby in 2000, but not a Japanese-bred kind of Japanese runner. So it's a toss for me.
Plus, Hideki Matsuyama won the 2021 Masters.
That is true, Jackie.
First men's Japanese golfer to win a major championship. So keep that in mind as you either you choose rebuttal or confirmation here, Seth. You're on mute. Coffee boy.
Hey, I'm trying to keep the costs out for you. No, I'm in pretty much agreement there. It's 20 years and the UAE Derby can't get somebody to finish in the top 4. Maybe this is the year, but I've lost enough money on Master of Hounds, Thunder, Snow, Lonnie, who couldn't even come out of the gate correctly. Yep. It always seems to be a disaster. And, I've just finally learned I'll tip my hat to them if this horse wins or hits the board and blows up my bet. But just there's too much data showing they just don't come across the pond that well. And like Jim said, they're all the buzz right now. He had a great 5 furlong blowout workout. Yeah, everybody's talking about it. I feel like I've swallowed this Kool-Aid too many times in too many years past.
All right, let's hit the recharge button as we move to the 8 horse. Charge it.
Charge it. What to do with my friend Charge It? He's a Todd Pletcher horse. Todd finally has a Derby win under his belt. I used to say, and I still say, I think Todd Pletcher is an amazing trainer who has the ability to get you to the Derby. I just never really thought of him much as a one to actually win it. He always seems to bring a bunch of horses that always are tier 2, tier 3, but their owners are thrilled to be there. I'm wondering if this is actually a contender. I don't like he did not run as a 2-year-old at all, though. He didn't start racing until much earlier this year. And if you watch that Florida Derby where he finishes second, he looks like he's coming strong, but he is leaking all over the stretch. Very green, very rank as he comes down the stretch. So, he's got room for improvement. I think he can go the distance. He's a Pletcher. I got a question mark by him at the moment.
Mr. Love.
Pletcher horses, when it's some allowance race, at Aqueduct or Saratoga, always get over bet. You're going to get 8-5 when you probably should get 3-1. In a Derby, his horses blend in a little more. 20-1, I think, is definitely a very fair price. I think probably a generous price for this horse. I am going to make another South Texas connection. Todd Pletcher did graduate from high school here in San Antonio.
You get 2 South Texas references per
You're going to get
podcast.
references, Jackie. But yes, he went to James Madison High here in San Ann. So, got to do a little shout out for him. But, Luis Saez, I love as a jockey. He's always up there running really well at Saratoga every summer, along with the Ortiz brothers and Joel Rosario. I think with the Florida Derby, yes, he was kind of leaking all over the track, but he did, hit the gate at the start. It was he broke poorly and then ran a good race after that. And I thought he punched above his weight coming out of a maiden race into the Florida Derby to run second. But not a lot of seasoning here, only 3 races, didn't race at 2. There's a few other horses that are contenders that we're going to talk about that didn't race at 2 later on. So there's definitely some red flags, and that probably justifies what the morning line odds maker was thinking.
Keep talking, Mr. Love, as we turn our attention to Tiz the Bomb, the 9 horse at 30-1 odds.
Yeah, so Tiz the Bomb, if you want to really grasp at straws, you could get a bit of an Animal Kingdom vibe here. Animal Kingdom won the Derby years back, 2011, I believe, kind of as more of a turf horse. But that's the issue here. This horse seems more suited to run on the turf. He did win 2 races on the artificial surface at Turfway Park in outside of in Metro Cincinnati in northern Kentucky to qualify for this race. And in fact, the Jeff Ruby Stakes is now a graded race, and he beat a couple of horses that have made this field. Looked good in that race, but it's just a different animal to run on the dirt at Churchill, which this horse did do once last May as a 2-year-old and ran 7th in a maiden race. Brian Hernandez is probably one of the lesser known jockeys in the field. Kenny Mcpeek has another horse in here, still a really strong trainer, but chasing his first Derby. So I just think, the only dirt start in the last 6 races this horse had was in the Holy Bull at Gulfstream in February, and he ran 7th and was beaten 20 lengths. That was a really strong race, the Holy Bull, but, he was beaten by several other contenders in this race, so it's a toss for me.
Seth, do you think that analysis was the bomb?
It was pretty much the bomb. Because I'm not going to go as far back of May of 21 with these horses to find out that he did something good on dirt.
You're talking to a mathematical wizard here.
Well, and he did bad on the dirt last May. That's the thing. It wasn't even
he could. I guess my point is he could have done good on the dirt last May, and I'm not going to care. They grow so much. There's so much they're learning. So I really just kind of focus on their last, maybe into December, November if you want. But like Jim said, he is doing very well on turf. He gives the shot in the Holy Bull at the dirt. He goes nowhere in that race, goes back to the turf, reestablishes himself as a great turf horse. Much like we talk about the UAE Derby, the turf horses, it hasn't been since, I guess, like you said, Jim, Animal Kingdom in 2011, I think won it. Yet Patio Prado finished third like the year before, but the turf horses haven't done anything in the last year. Like they're not hitting the board. Yeah. So again, I'll tip my hat if Tiz the Bomb, comes through, because his last race, he's got a great on the Brisnet. He's got great late pace figures and the speed figures. If this was a dirt horse, I'd be all over it. But the turf just says I got to pass.
I got to do some ad reads. I got to do a little Brandon. But first, let's talk about Zandin. 3-1 odds, 10 horse. Seth, take it away.
Look, I think Zandin's a very good horse. I don't agree that he should be the morning line favorite, though. I don't like his style of running. I don't like that he's coming from well off the pace. Doesn't mean he can't get there in this case. I just don't like to bet the deep closers to win. This horse, to me, has definitely hitting some part of your ticket in the exotics. He may win. He's a very strong horse. I just can't trust the deep closer in the 20-horse race Kentucky Derby. Been burned by that too many times. But you got to play this horse. You should probably be in any of your, exotics.
Jimbo?
This is a really deep field. Somebody has to be the morning line favorite. I struggle to understand how this horse is the morning line favorite. This horse has been beat in the past by Epicenter, Mo Donegal, and Smile Happy. I do think the Bluegrass was a huge race, but people do tend to forget the last Bluegrass winner, even though Keeneland's just down the road from Louisville. The last Bluegrass winner to win the Derby was Strike to Gold in 91. So there's a bit of a curse there. The only thing that kind of gives me a little confidence is Chad Brown could have also run early voting in this race. Another one of his trainees, but he's kind of holding that horse for the Preakness. Maybe he just thought early voting would have no shot here against Zandin. That's one angle you could play, but, I think at the price, I don't see the value. And then, he looked strong in the stretch with that deep close in the Bluegrass, but I still actually have a little bit of pause about maybe his ability to make the 10 furlongs as well, relative compared to a few of the others. So it's a tough one for me.
As we turn the corner to the latter half, let's paint the corner with our friends at Helm Paint. All right, welcome back to Talk Culotta, where we talk a lot of horses. Jim loves Seth Schmeeckle. As we turn the corner and look at the last 10 horses, and then we come to the point where I'm concerned that Seth even has his mind made up as to who he's gonna pick for the winner, the value winner, and the exacta. And then we're going to look at a pool on DraftKings to close out. But the 11 horse goes to you, Mr. Love. It's Pioneer of Medina, 30-1 odds.
The third and final Pletcher trainee in the field that we've talked about, along with Mo Donegal and Charge It. Pioneer of Medina was stalking behind Epicenter in the Risen Star, which we've already talked about was a really good race. Horses came out of that race and did well in other races. Stalked behind him, but was no match for him there. Then he was ahead of Epicenter in the Louisiana Derby. Epicenter kind of backed off and decided to kind of stalk. And Pioneer of Medina was a little bit ahead of him, got past in the stretch. Now he's kept company with one of the best horses in the race, but has not been remotely a match in either of the Louisiana preps. Good horse, seems to be improving. No stakes wins is a bit of a red flag. The horse is 2 for 6 lifetime with just a maiden and optional claimer win. So, I think there's others in here that are better.
Seth, rebuttal or confirmation?
It's tough because you had 5 tracks, major tracks, maybe 6, depending on you got Florida. You got
to argue about something.
No, well, we'll get closer, but so a couple of these tracks every year present like false horses, and usually it's oftentimes the Louisiana Fairgrounds because they, as Jim said earlier, they just don't really pan out. But right now, it looks like the Louisiana Path has presented the strongest group of horses, which kind of gets you excited about Pioneer Bandina. But he didn't really keep pace. So you're trying to look at this horse as the bottom of your tickets on your exotics. Does he really get there? And then I'm staring at Pletcher, and I'm telling you, I've just had such bad luck with him over the – yes, he's trained a winner. He just gets horses to the Derby, and once they just don't do anything. And so really I'm off of Pioneer Medina just for that reason.
Okay, 12 horse. Take it away, Seth. It's Taba, 12-1 odds.
This is probably going to be one of the more fun ones for everybody to discuss. Taba's a freak of nature. He may run away with this thing wire to wire. He also may not come out of the gate like Hot Rod Charlie and he'll finish 16th. The horse has only run twice. That is horribly unseasoned. It's just a lot for this horse to figure out. The Santa Anita Derby, he won running away. Again, it was incredible. And that's after he ran an incredibly fast 6 furlong race back in March, a month earlier. Freak of nature, needs more training. You don't know what you're getting. Leave him off your tickets at your own peril. It's going to be one of two things. He's either going to run away with this thing or he's just going to freak out because he's never run in a race with more horses and he's just going to tank up. But I love what I'm seeing. I wish they just brought him along a little more than they have.
This is fun for me. I don't have to do any research. I can just, point to the board and lead the conversation. Jim, do you? I'm
using this horse. I don't feel comfortable leaving him out of tickets.
Jim, do you think there's a chance that he could run the Taba?
I like the pun there, Jackie. I mean, here's the reality. It's another Baffert trainee. It's the other horse that is Tim Yakteen is now officially training. We know what Baffert did with Justify, who had only run 3 races before the Derby and then won the Triple Crown. This horse has only run 2. Freak of nature is a great way to put it. Wins a maiden race literally 2 months ago today in his debut. Only started racing 2 months ago today. Then
ran away with that maiden race.
Blows the top off the race, wins by 7.5. Then comes back in the Santa Anita Derby, which has produced so many Derby winners in the last decade. We're talking about other preps. Oh, the Bluegrass hasn't had a winner in 31 years. Grindstone 26 years ago was the last Louisiana Derby winner to win this race. The Santa Anita Derby's been producing these winners, Derby winners a lot. And he beats Messier by 2 1/4, who was another 10 lengths back to Happy Jack in third. So freak of nature, it's a very divisive horse. If you told me that I can get the 12-1 on the morning line, I would put a really big win ticket on this horse at that price because what do you have to lose? I mean, he's either going to win by 5. If he runs anything like the Santa Anita Derby, he probably wins the race by 5 and blows the doors, especially if he keeps improving like he has. But this is unprecedented. 3rd career start, didn't start racing until 2 weeks ago. He could also run 19th. But at 12-1, do you take that chance? Of course. I think you at least have to bet him to win. I probably won't play him in my exotics, though, because I feel like he's a horse that's either going to win or run off the board, if that makes sense.
Do you think he stays at 12-1, Jim? Because I just wonder if he's going to get bet down. Because, he's just such a freak of nature.
I think the Beyer speed figure players, he's got that big Beyer at the Santa Anita Derby. The Brisnet figures are strong as well. I think they'll bet him down. But then I think your traditionalists will probably steer clear just because of kind of some of these unwritten rules that Justify and other horses have broken. That, a horse can't win not having raced at age 2 or not having raced more than X number of starts. So I think you'll probably see the horse bet down to 7, 8, 9-1 would be my gut on that.
That's still good value.
I agree. Absolutely.
Interesting that you say
We'll try to disagree on something.
Down, that the odds increase.
Say that again, Jackie.
When you say bet down, the odds increase. So he's
no. Bet down is going to go from 12 to 1, like 8 to 1.
Yeah, the odds will come down. More people are going to bet on the horse, which will lower the odds.
Oh, correct. Okay. Just making sure.
And maybe we'll finally disagree on something. We have 8 horses to still disagree.
That's right.
So we'll see.
Well, we're bouncing around between, 10, 20, 25 viewers across all platforms, YouTube, Facebook. And if you want to leave a comment or a question, just keep it simple as we move to the 13 horse.
Well, I think this horse is anything but simple to figure out. Jose Ortiz is a great jockey. His brother Irad is riding Mo Donegal, the one. They've been dominating the standings in New York for years. This horse has been no match for White Abarrio in either of their matchups in Florida. But he came out of that Holy Bull where he ran second and won the Fountain of Youth, which White Abarrio skipped. And every horse that ran in the top 3 in that Holy Bull came back and won their next start. So it was a really strong prep, I think. My bigger red flag here, and probably is why the 20 to 1 morning line is justified. I don't feel this horse has necessarily continued to improve at age 3. I think he's always run at Gulfstream. I think he had a massive maiden race last fall, which you kind of have to discount. And then when he came back at 3, he's won twice. But, I also think that, he ran a pretty clear-cut and distant second at the Holy Bull and, was no match for White Abarrio or Chargett at the Florida Derby. So,
Seth, follow up.
Yeah, tough to figure.
He doesn't want the extra furlong. You can see it in his races.
14, Seth, Barber Road, 30 to 1 odds.
Yeah, there's not a lot to like here. I mean, throw down $10 to see if you can take advantage of the 30 to 1. I expect him to go up. It's a horse with owners who are going for the experience in my mind. I don't really have much more to say about it.
All I have to say is that you should leave your barber right now and go to H2O Salon and Spa to get your haircut or a massage. Treat your mother to a Mother's Day spa treatment day. Get it done. Go to H2O Salon and Spa, get a haircut, get a massage, as we allow maybe 10 to 15 seconds for Jim to comment on Barber Road.
I just think he hasn't won a race since a starter allowance last November. He's in over his head. He's been competitive, but doesn't cross the finish line first. The path through Arkansas seems a little weak this year, even though that's the path American Pharoah took in 15 on the way to the Triple Crown. So it's a toss for me.
It's a toss. He's a closer, and if I'm getting on some closers, it's not this one.
Moving on to the 15 horse. Jim, take it away. It's White Abarrio, 10 to 1 odds.
Only 2 starts at age 3, and he was absolutely dominant in both at Gulfstream. That Holy Bull that I've talked about a few times, he did win the race, and every horse came out of that race and ran well next time out. Definitely was concerned. He skipped the Fountain of Youth, which is the middle of the 3 Florida preps between the Holy Bull and the Florida Derby. Not sure what that was about, but he came back and won the Florida Derby. No trouble. I don't know if he's quite fast enough, but I do like his running style. I do think he should be fresh, and that Holy Bull win is, I think, extra impressive, even though that's only a grade 3 race. I think Jackie was expecting me to talk longer than.
Mr. Schmeeckle, go ahead.
Oh yeah, just wasn't sure there. There we go. Yeah, there's a lot to like. I'm actually this horse is the most intriguing because we haven't got to see him run against Epicenter yet or Zandin. I think the Florida horse, just the track this year has been kind of the sleeping giant. I think this one can definitely surprise you. You may get some really good value out of White Abarrio. I'm excited to see what he does, and I love those 2 buyer speed figures. They're right on top of each other, and it looks like he's ready to make another step forward. There's a lot to like here with White Abarrio.
I guess this is like another name for a lightsaber, but it's Cyber Knife, 20 to 1 odds, 16 horse. Seth?
Whew. I have still got a big question mark. Haven't decided what to do with this horse. He was
It's a stupid ass name.
absolutely horrible in the Lecomte. Dropped down to go run an optional claimer. Not really what you're doing when you're trying to make your way to the Derby. Comes back to the Arkansas after winning that optional claimer, and he wins the Arkansas Derby. And he looked really good at it. It's like something happened in that optional claimer in February to now we have a different horse than we had before. It's tough to trust him, but at the same time, everything's not going to go according to Hoyle. There's something going on with the horse, and he may hit the bottom of tickets. I think you got to look at this horse for some exotics. Jim already said Arkansas has been considered one of the weaker tracks this year. If so, then that if you believe in that, maybe you don't play him. But there's something going on with this horse. Go watch the Arkansas Derby. He comes home strong, and if he's ready to make another step forward, he can be on the ticket.
Arkansas never wins anything in general, so I'm going to stay away from that one. But 17 classic.
I don't get a rebuttal, Jack.
I want to hear Jim.
Oh yeah. Sorry, rebuttal.
God, you're so busy dogging the great people of Arkansas that
That's why we only got 10 people listening to this.
Oh
all the Arkansas people are boycotting.
Go ahead, Jimbo. Sorry.
They may not even have a connection, but anyway, Gunrunner is the sire of this horse. Gunrunner is the sire of a few horses. Gunrunner's progeny do tend to run well if it's an off track. We haven't really talked about the forecast. That's an angle maybe. If the track comes up a little sloppy, this horse maybe has some breeding for that. But I'm going to just say it's a toss. Brad Cox is a great trainer. I like that this horse won a maiden race at Churchill, so it has some experience over the track. The Lecomte was a red flag for me. And the Arkansas Derby was very impressive, but I'm going to kind of deviate from what Seth said and just take my chances and try to beat this horse.
As people in New Orleans are stuck in traffic on the Causeway, let's move to the 17-horse Classic Causeway, 30-1 odds.
I mean, in 20 words or less, because I know we're trying to keep me on a time limit. That Florida Derby was just an abject disaster. I mean, was leading, sets at the first call 47.5, not like a brutal, wasn't like the horse was running 45 and change, had the rail, had the lead, and then loses by 21 lengths and finishes dead last, just completely retreated. I think it's one of these examples where, the owners, trainers, et cetera, probably just want to give it a go. Arad Ortiz is going to Mo Donegal. That's the jockey who rode this horse the last 3 times in Florida. That ought to tell you a lot. So just pretty straightforward toss for me.
Yeah, it's not good when the word abject is used, as Merriam-Webster describes, of something bad, experienced or present to the maximum degree. Example, his letter plunged her into abject misery.
That race was pretty miserable if you watched the Florida Derby, and that horse gave up. But I want to hear Seth.
Yeah, well, so here's obviously at initial review, I'm right there with you, Jim. But so I'm trying to draw a line through that race because I looked into it, and right now they're thinking that he had displaced his palate, which was causing him some breathing problems during that race, and so they've got some equipment changes going on for the upcoming Kentucky Derby. So I'm putting a line through it and trying to look at the horse ignoring that race. And then it becomes a bit of a challenge because you're seeing he looks good on paper, but his speed figures are a little behind everybody else's. Is he ready to take a step forward? He might have been, but we don't really know because we've drawn a line through the Florida Derby. I haven't tossed him out quite as easily as you have, and I'm still looking at him. But I don't think you can count I don't think you should. I think you have to draw a line through the Florida Derby. They've got an equipment change coming. I think you got to make a decision. And actually, Jim, I'd like to, if you drew a line through that, what would you be looking at for Classic Causeway?
You'd be looking at a horse that was very viable coming out of those Tampa preps, which don't tend to be quite as strong historically as the Gulfstream preps. But, I'd say then, the thing to me would still be then why is Ortiz kind of going with a different horse? That would still probably be where I would initially find a red flag. But yeah, you have a solid horse with 3 wins, a second and a third, and 5 starts if you toss the Florida Derby for sure.
Let's go to 18, Tawny Port. Seth?
So certainly he's a mismatch. here's what I don't like. Let's just start there. He's basically run his own Triple Crown just to get himself into the Kentucky Derby.
I swear this guy looks at my notes. This is awesome. Anyway,
it's just too many races. I mean, there is stuff to like about him. He's a dirt runner. He just won his last race in the Lexington. He did well on the turf earlier as well. He's shown he can do everything, but his speed figures are not where they need to be relative to the others. And really, I'm tossing it because we know how hard it is for a horse to run the Triple Crown. This horse created his own Triple Crown just to get here, and I just think that's too much in a short period of time.
Tawny Port, a port wine made from a blend of several vintages matured in wood. Go ahead, Jimbo.
I mean, great name, I think, but definitely, I call it the Kentucky Triple Crown. Turfway Park, Keeneland, Churchill. Third race in 5 weeks, just like the regular Triple Crown. Again, Brad Cox is a great trainer, like we already said, with the 16 and actually Zozos, who we'll talk about next. Hard to dismiss Brad Cox, but I think just making the field was the prize here. The only real positive thing I can draw here, Florent Giroux actually went to a different horse. You got Ricardo Santana, good jockey, but Giroux made a different decision. The positive is this horse, I thought, ran a good race in the Risen Star. I mean, and that's where I still am at least keeping this horse in the back of my mind. Ran fifth, was gaining ground in the stretch, got a pretty bad trip, was kind of 6 wide at the quarter pole and, picked up the pieces. And there were 3 horses that ran 1, 2, 3 in that race that are really strong. So that's the best race I see in the past performances. I think the Lexington's just too many notches below and probably a tough one, but probably ultimately will not be on my tickets.
I like this horse, Zozos. Take it away, Jim.
So Zozos, much like a few others, is very lightly raced. Only 4th career start. They've all been at age 3. The first 3 starts were all at age 3. Definitely seeing some steady improvement in each race. I think any horse that, wins by 10 lengths, albeit in an optional allowance at Fairgrounds, and then comes back, huge step up in class into your top prep race, the Louisiana Derby, and was a really respected second behind Epicenter. No match in the stretch for him, but set a moderately robust pace for a 9.5 furlong race at 47-1 and 111-3, and still held on for second. Out finished Pioneer of Medina, who we've already talked about. So some things to like. I think of the less seasoned horses, though, Taiba would be the one I would be more inclined to bet. And, this horse is going to have to break really well from the far outside, I think, to even be remotely relevant.
Seth?
Yeah, I might be a little more positive on him, though, because I really did love what he did in the Louisiana Derby. No, he couldn't, match up with Epicenter. I don't really think he can win. What I expect to happen, though, is we know Summer is Tomorrow is going to be off in front of everybody. I think Zozos is going to probably be running second. And does he hang on for a piece? Because you see this happen a lot in these long races where these leaders just get out in front and then the race is so long, there's not a lot of changing of position. So maybe he finishes third. So if you want to place a show bet or you're playing a superfecta, you may want to leave him on there because he's going to be on the front with the lead. And we saw him run fairly well. I mean, he beat Pioneer Medina, who some people are like, oh, that's my bottom of my ticket. Like, this horse already outran Pioneer Medina.
Yep.
There's some really good stuff here. I could see this as a sleeper board hitter.
The 20 horse, Seth, you do the honors.
Sorry. Yes, Dwayne Lucas, my old friend, your time has passed. Oxbow was great. That was your one, gift of your ages. This is just Dwayne Lucas wanting to go to another Derby. He's a great trainer. He's going to be a Hall of Fame trainer. But this is just not it. So but I don't really have a lot to say on Ethereal Road.
Jim, you're shaking your head.
Warms my heart to see Dwayne giving it a go. He's 86 years old. He's a Hall of Famer. I think the one positive thing you could say about this horse is he's always faced big fields, more so than any other horse. Every race he's ever run has had at least 11 horses. But the problem is he's always finished in the middle of the pack in those races. Just thoroughly.
Why don't they just let Dwayne get on the horse and ride it slowly behind him?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be a riot. This horse has just been thoroughly outclassed. It didn't really come through the track of prep races that I think were strong. ran 7th behind Zandin and Smile Happy at the Bluegrass. Last to qualify on points, actually got in the field when a horse kind of declared out a week ago. And 3rd race in 4 weeks. So an even more aggressive triple crown, if you will, than we just talked about with Tawny Port. Ran back-to-back weeks to just try to get points to qualify. Just a big-time toss here. Should be 80-1 but he'll probably be 40 or 50-1 because people like D. Wayne sentimentally.
So you probably want to stay away from Ethereal Road. And that does it for our in-depth analysis of each of the 20 horses for the 148th Kentucky Derby. It's time to make picks, gentlemen. Are you ready? We're going to start with Seth since we started with Jim. And we're going to start with the category of, you know what, Seth? You choose either your value winner to make you a lot of money, your favorite to win the race, or your exacta.
Well, I don't know what I'll give you. Let's see. The value pick, I'm all over my freaking nature Taba. 12-1 is just ridiculously juicy for what I think is the best horse in this race. And he may not prove it today, tomorrow, Saturday, whenever we are, because he's just not seasoned. But I think you're going to see this horse take over the rest of the year. So that's your value pick if you're getting him at 12-1 and he pulls it off. Again, if you're trying to build a ticket and you're looking for a key horse, which is the bet that I usually place as a superfecta, the key, I think that's Epicenter. I think he's the most consistent, most likely to finish in the top 4. So I'll be using Epicenter as my key. So I guess if I was going to play an exacta, it would probably be, Epicenter Tava. That would probably be my exacta.
Okay, wait. You jumped ahead there, pal.
Oh, they wanted all of them.
He just bulldogged everything.
Okay, so Epicenter Taba as your exacta, Seth. Your value winner is Taba. And your favorite?
What you mean my favorite? I thought that was Epicenter.
Like your pick to win is Epicenter.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, my turn, Jackie.
Yep, go ahead.
I think Lovable Long Shot. I'm going to go with the 5 Smile Happy. I thought we were more playing for 20-1 than 10-1.
I like your style, Love.
It's a 20 horse race. 10-1 is value, but it's, not quite 20-1.
Davis 12-1.
12-1, excuse me. But I think we all know he'll be bet down to 8 or 9. I'd say the 3 horses that have medium to high odds that I think need to be on tickets would be, in addition to Smile Happy, if you're trying to kind of key some horses, make a super, in addition to Smile Happy as another long shot, Charge It, the 8. I'd throw definitely Taba in there as well. Must have a win bet on him at those odds. And then White Abario. I think those 4 need to be kind of involved in your tickets. I think in a 20 horse field, you can make an argument for so many. I have 8, 10, 11, 12 horses. I think to be effective and not, overhead, spread yourself thin, you got to narrow it down to 5 or 6. So I'd say Charge It, Smile Happy, Taba, White Abario in that 10-1 or greater. And then I'm going to say for my winner, I would also take Epicenter. I think we've all discussed the Risen Star is really what did it for me, more so than even the Louisiana Derby. But then that he could stalk and look so good in the stretch at the Louisiana Derby, 9.5 furlongs. I think he breaks the 26-year curse. And then I think I'm getting a bit of a Looking at Lee vibe, who ran 2nd with a rail ground-saving closing trip.
Moment of truth. Jim loves exact.
To round out an exact, I'm going to go Epicenter with Mo Donegal underneath, picking up the pieces.
Oh, wow.
I think you do have some really 2 or 3 that are going to go early. I think not only is Summer is tomorrow, but Crown, the Japanese horse, may go early as well. And you got Zozos and a few others. I think the pace will be hot. It'll set up. So I think Mo Donegal picks up the pieces for 2nd behind Epicenter. But then you got to have those other 4 I mentioned at least somewhere on your tickets. And Taba and Smile Happy, you have to have some good win money on those 2, because I think Taba's feast or famine on the win bet.
Well, yeah, that's great, Jim. And before Jack cuts us off, he talked about the hot.
I'm not going to cut you off because I have a pool question. Go ahead. Y'all keep talking.
Well, first I want to ask Jim, you said it, and I agree with you on paper. This looks like it's going to be a pretty hot pace. But you tell me, it feels like the last 4 or 5 years, that's the way it's looked. And it's something that these jockeys were in the we're in the points era. We were in the points era. We don't have those speed ballers that show up. It seems like these jockeys are kind of starting to say, hey, we're not going out as hot. And it seems like a trend anyway the last few years. I want to get your thoughts on that.
That's a good point, because before this point system that Churchill engineered to really emphasize doing well in longer prep races, you had horses running and winning these 7 furlong races.
Yes.
And getting in on earnings.
What was the white horse? I can't remember, with the blue tail.
I know he ran like a 45-1 half mile.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to remember that horse's name, and you're like looking at it, but all of those types of horses have been
Blackjack.
They've all been eliminated now. Like, you just don't have the true speed ballers anymore.
What race are y'all talking about?
It's a Kentucky hat.
It was the Derby years, back in the 2000s. But there was a horse that went out in 45, like flat, basically, and it's killing me that I can't remember.
Hanson. I'm thinking of Hanson. Hanson had the blue tail, white horse. They dyed his hair blue. He had won the Kentucky Jockey Club. And you're like, I got to have that speed. He goes out, he runs those first, 3/4 mile, and then they just die. But they've created this hot pace behind them, which maybe that's what tomorrow is going to do. So it may end up being a hot pace. But
I just, I loved what looking at Lee did underneath 5 years ago. Broke from the one. No one liked him. He went off at 33-1, and he just saved ground. I think Arado Ortiz will save ground, and I think there's enough pace to close into. And I think just saving ground the whole way should serve Mo Donegal well. But you're right. The way the Derby is composed now is so much different than 15, 20 years ago, when it was all based on earnings, and you could win a bunch of turf sprints and get into the Derby. So it's a really good point. I agree.
Guys, to close out, I want to remind everyone listening that DraftKings Sportsbook is one way to go. But if you don't want to spend any money, DraftKings does the daily fantasy games, and this one is actually free. It's a $10,000 prize pool, Kentucky's big horse race pool. And it's basically a number of questions that obviously, I think the only way that you can win is by getting all the questions right, and then you split the money with all the people who get them right. But it's unlimited, or one entry per person, but unlimited entries. They're not going to max it out at 15,000 people or 20,000. So let's make these picks together on my phone, and let's just agree on the answers, and I'll submit it, and we'll see if we win. Okay.
Do we get a kickback if we win?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A third each, right? This isn't where like you go, I gave y'all something. Here's 10%.
Yeah, I'll give you all a third of the winnings. All right, jeez.
Cool.
Greedy bastards. Okay. Who will finish in first place? We're all taking Epicenter.
Let's go for it. Sure.
And it's the most. I honestly don't think he's going to win, but he's the most likely. Nonetheless,
okay, then let's pick something different. Let's change it up.
Statistically, he's most likely to win.
Is Taba an option or no?
Yes.
I mean, I'd still go Epicenter, but if you want to be devil's advocate, Taba.
No, let's go Epicenter. That way, when it's Taba, we can all rewatch this and go, we're idiots. So yeah.
All right, let's go Taba for second place.
I think either wins or he's in the back.
I think he wins or he runs.
Okay, then let's go Taba to win the goddamn thing.
All right, Jackie.
All right, Taba and then Epicenter in second. How about
Taba and then Epicenter in second. Okay, which horse will finish in third place?
Bring one of your closers up, Jim.
What about Mo Donegal? Is that an option?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, Mo Donegal at third. So we have Taba to win the damn thing. Epicenter, second place. Mo Donegal in third. Next question. Winning horse time over 2 minutes, 2 seconds, and 2 minutes, 2 seconds, and what is that, 50 milliseconds? Or under 2 minutes, 2 seconds?
Oh, an over under for horse racing. I will take the under. I think Epicenter ran the Louisiana Derby in 154-1. Only another half furlong. It's a totally different track, totally different day. Of course, the weather could be a factor.
I was about to say, good weather, it should be under, right?
Good. Yeah, we didn't talk much about the conditions or the forecast. We could have another 2-hour show about that. I like meteorology, but
yeah, this guy's on the anniversary dinner.
I would go under, but I'd like to hear what Seth and you think.
And look, I think you already nailed it. If it's a sealed track, a sloppy track, I think it's going to go over. I think it's going under. If it's not, I looked at the weather before we dropped on. Tomorrow's supposed to be a really bad day for the Kentucky Oaks. I feel sorry for those horses running tomorrow. The rain's supposed to move out midday, so you'll start to have some drying going on. Yep. Will the track get all the way to fast? I hope so.
I'm channeling good weather and good vibes. I'm wearing a damn seersucker jacket, so let's go under, baby.
Oh, I like it.
All right. Next question, what will the saddlecloth number of the winning horse be, odd or even? Well, wouldn't we just go with what Taba is?
Yeah, Taba. I mean, I think you have to kind of.
Well, if you want to win this thing, you can't undo
right.
yourself.
We got to go even. Even then.
Got to go even. Okay. Post position of the winning horse, 1 through 10 or 11 through 20?
We got to go 11 through 20.
Got to go 11 through 20.
Jeez. Which horse will have the better finishing position, Messier or Taba? Taba.
Yeah, I got to go Taba. We didn't talk, a lot about Messier.
And last question, which horse will have the better finishing position, Zandin or Modonegal?
I'm all in on Modonegal.
That's interesting.
I mean, but we already put Modonegal.
There's your disagreement, Jack. There it is. I was going to say Zandin, so now you've been looking for a real big disagreement. So there we are.
We
picked Modonegal to be our third, but wait, Seth, do you have a rebuttal for who our third place horse should be?
Well, no, I liked Modonegal because you're not going to have like these three favorites come across 1, 2, 3. Well, not that Taba's one of the favorites, but he is an upper echelon. It's not going to happen. And so once we have married ourselves to Taba Epicenter, you got to bring in a longer shot like Modonegal. So that makes sense. And actually, now that because of that, I guess we have to also pick, which I'm fine with.
Right. I tell you what, man, if Zandin gets third and Modonegal gets fourth, I'm going to lose my mind.
Blame it all on me. I think none of us felt too threatened by Zandin as a 3-1 morning line favorite, though, I will say.
I agree.
Submitted. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining. On behalf of our illustrious Boot Crew Media crew, this is Jim Love and Seth Schmeeckle. I'm Jack Culotta. This is Talk Culotta, where we talk a lot of sports. And this evening, we talked a lot of horses. Looking forward to the fastest 2 minutes in sports. Everyone have a great weekend, guys. Final words.
Just really appreciate you having me on. Excited. Derby Day is one of the great days of the year. And it's the start of the Triple Crown. Of course, we'll have the Preakness and Belmont Stakes as well, which are always fun to handicap. So thanks for having me on. Appreciate your time.
I enjoyed being on, Jim. Great get to talk with you. I hope everybody has at least one mint julep, if not more, on Saturday.
Got my Derby glass ready.
Finishing up mine right now. Cheers. Happy anniversary to you and Kelly, and keep channeling good vibes in South Texas, Jimbo.
All right, channel. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
All right, folks. This is Talk Culotta, and we are signing out. Peace and love. Guys, y'all can hang on if y'all want to chat